Excellent. I see it is 2 p.m. on July 5th, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Stephanie, will you do a roll call to see who's here with us?
Commissioner Baugh? Here. Commissioner Byers? Commissioner Hall?
Here.
Commissioner McLean?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Here.
Commissioner Williams? I don't believe she's on.
Is she on the,
Nope.
okay.
You do have a quorum. Oh, also present is Stephanie and Samantha and Zach Cook. You do have a quorum.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. Now is the time to declare any conflicts of interest for the commission. Nope, seeing none, we'll continue on. Stephanie, can you certify that we're in compliance with Resolution 2023-01?
I do certify that the meeting and properties were posted in accordance with Resolution 23-01 and in compliance with Section 5440 of the Municipal Code.
Great, thank you. Excellent. We'll move into bullet 3, the approval of agenda. We have a number of items on our agenda here today. I'll offer it up to the commission or to this board. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? No discussion. Any opposition? Is it okay if we just do it unanimous rather than roll call?
I believe it has to be by roll.
Does it have to be? Okay, we'll go into roll call vote then.
Commissioner Baugh?
I'll abstain due to the fact I wasn't present.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner McLean?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So we have the agenda in front of us today. We will now go into the approval of last meeting's agenda item, or last meeting's minutes. This would be the June 6th meeting. We discussed a number of items, along with some proposed changes to the council for the Chapter 54 rewrite. Any comments or changes to the meeting minutes as stated in your packet?
I didn't see any. I'll make a motion and accept them as submitted.
Okay. I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call.
Commissioner Baugh?
Abstain.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner McLean?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Excellent. All right. Great. So that is kind of the steps we have to take to get this meeting up and running. At this time, we're going to open up for public input. There's a lot of folks in the crowd here today. We ask that this section of public input be comments outside of the given bullets that we have on our agenda today. So you will have an opportunity to comment on anything that's on the agenda later when we get to that point in time. This is just general public comment that the Planning and Zoning Board needs to hear in your opinion. So I'll open it up for any comments not related to the agenda items here today. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public input. And now we'll move into the quasi-judicial public hearing. So we have, it looks like 5 items to cover today. Sam, why don't we go ahead and start with the first one, variance case PV 2023-143. Will you tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, Chairman, Commissioners, we have with us Robert Hernandez requesting a variance to encroach 17.79 feet into the 20-foot front yard setbacks and 8.3 feet into the 10-foot left side yard setbacks and 7.7 feet into the required 10-foot right side yard setback to construct a deck onto the existing residence located at 117 Wilson Lane, Block E, Lot 7 of the Ruidoso Springs subdivision. I'll let him go ahead and try to present his hardship and justification for such a extensive variance request. Would you like to please come to the desk and the chairman will swear you in and
Hi, Mr. Hernandez. Do you mind raising your hand? Say today you'll tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I will.
Good, great.
Okay. The reason I'm asking for his variance is previously this residence had a porch, but it was at ground level. And the flood washed it away, most of, all of it. There was bits and pieces. So the previous owner raised the house 8 feet. You can see in the pictures, it's on 12-inch I-beams. He kind of did it, but he's a friend of mine, and he had planned on repairing it, rebuilding it, all this good stuff, but he had some family hardships. Finally moved back to Tennessee and decided to sell it. Since I helped him raise this house, I've known him for 30-plus years, he asked me if I wanted to purchase it. Well, it was a iffy thing because it, you know, I just didn't think I can retire and afford that, but I thought it'd be nice for the grandchildren and, you know, have them, bring them somewhere cool and nice, and so I took it. But then when I got to looking at the house, you know, this is, yeah, I'll buy it, and then you go and you start trying to fix it, and whoa, everything's, needs everything, right? Well, I was gonna put up a simple porch, but being that high in the air, I thought it'd be better, you know, it'd be just nicer aesthetically and, you know, for the people around there. And because when I just walked into that property, when it was still, they were gonna condemn it, actually. I have some previous pictures here, what it looked like. And they were thanking me that you bought this? I said, yeah. Well, thank you that you're gonna clean it up and fix it up. And, you know, so then I thought, well, I would build a deck, you know, come out 10 feet from the front, come around the side, you guys 2 entrances. And that's what I put in, right? Then the city inspector advised me that I needed to make sure I wasn't in a floodplain, which I am, which threw me into another hot seat there, trying to find an engineer to engineer the piers and the clips to hold my deck up off these I-beams instead of bolting it to the house. So I've been waiting for 5 months on this stuff. Well, then I find out that I didn't have a up-to-date survey. So I had one done by Mr. Sparks, and I just got the final survey yesterday through email. So, you know, then it's showing, but his preliminary showed that I was encroaching on, the house is crooked. The house was built at an angle. Never knew that. So when I got to measuring again, I talked with the city inspector, and he said, no, you're close to these lines, you're gonna need a variance, you know. Well, the lot next to it is mine also, and I said, well, if I'm gonna, it's mine anyway, but I realized it's still a city property line, right? So I have to do something to move the line or try and get a variance. So then I looked on this side and I said, well, maybe if I shorten the deck, but if I went to the front door of the deck, it's 10.5 feet from my property line. So I'm stuck either way. So I decided to go with it, try to get a variance to build a decent looking deck up front and around the side. It still falls on my property, but I'm not within the 10 feet, you know. Now, if I try to build something smaller and it's just gonna look, the way the house is, I don't know, you have current pictures, I see on this thing. I put siding on it, had the windows put in. It's starting to look like a house anyway. And the cost is already driven, you know, I passed my budget with engineering and all this other stuff, and too late to back out on the deck now. And I'm doing most of the work on this house, except for the plumbing, electrical, and the HVAC, which they didn't allow me to do, because I don't have a license. I thought under the homeowners I can do that, but I guess not, so. I'm having that contract, that added another big chunk to the kitty there, and so mainly what I need is this deck to be able to get into the house to do a lot of this other work I'm gonna have to do, you know, to bring in materials. Right now, I'm trying to
Hoist it up there.
hoist it up 8 foot off the ground, but, you know, it would be, that's what I would like to do,
Okay.
you know, it's just, I think it would add aesthetics to the neighborhood, you know. There's really nice places across the little river there, and I wouldn't want to build something that looked like, shanty or anything like that. So I want to build something nice and kind of fit in and, and see what goes from there. So I just need an okay to be able to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for the context of the property. At this time, I believe we'll open it up to others to see if there's anybody that's opposed. And then we'll do they call it cross-examination, but essentially those that might be either for or against have the ability to ask you questions.
Yes, sir.
Once we close off that section, then the board we'll bring you back up, and then the board might have some questions for you as well. So, thank you for your application. At this time, we'll open it up to anybody that's opposed to the variance request as Mr. Hernandez presented it earlier.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with these computers or Zoom meetings. My name is Candace Garrett, and I own the property to the west of Mr. Hernandez.
Great.
My brother, J.M. Jones, and I own it. And I believe he wrote a letter to maybe a woman in the planning and zoning. I'm not sure who.
Yes,
or if it
I
was
believe we
mentioned.
have that. So that was one of the responses that we received, and we did receive it in the appropriate time.
Yes,
And so John
I-
Jones is your brother?
yes.
Okay.
And I didn't know if you were going to bring that up or if I needed to speak.
Yeah, if you have comments, please, this would be the appropriate time.
Yes, yes. My mother bought that property in '98, and we've seen a few floods come through there since she owned it. And she's since passed away, and my brother and I own it, although we don't live there anymore. I lived in Ruidoso for 25 years, and I still have property there. But our concern, we saw the plat and we saw the drawings and everything. And our concern is because it's in the flood zone and it's at the bottleneck, the far east side of the bottleneck where the red zone is. And we're concerned that with stilts or 4x4s or 8x8s or whatever he's going to use for the legs to the deck, will possibly collect debris from up the canyon, trees and brush and limbs, and back the water up and it further. And that was our concern. In fact, Mother tried to buy that place back in '98, and there was no record at Village Hall of who owned it. And so that kind of went away, but it was held up by railroad ties stacked for years. I think it may have been placed there in the 70s, I'm not sure. But it was, the floods kept washing those timbers, and they kept slipping and sliding. And then finally, the ironwork has been put under it, which is nice. And it desperately needed. But we are just very concerned about the deck catching the logs and branches and creating a big mess, more of a flood upriver.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chairman, I can address that. The building department will ensure that he has engineered plans on that deck and construction meets any flow-throughs and requirements according to our ordinance for floodplain management. So with that, the floodplain is unique to his property and does create a building hardship with that lot because of the way it's mapped through there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I see your concern totally, but when the house was at ground level is when that happened, when it restricted all the debris coming in. That's why we raised that house 8 feet. And it always had the 12-inch I-beam under, that's how we raised it. And we did sit it on 4x4s, railroad ties. There was 5 big blocks of railroad ties. And it did sit there for a long time because at that time his wife had passed away, so he just wasn't working on it. And I know the city was after him. They threatened to condemn it and all this stuff. And I told him, I said, you got to do something with it, So then he had the piers put in. He had them engineered. I have the engineered drawings, not with me, but I should have brought them. But he had it engineered. there's 8-inch pipe and 12-inch I-beam as legs. And that was to reduce a restriction of debris coming through it, just go right through it. Whatever hits those beams, it's gonna move off to the side there, you know. So it's built stout enough, and especially on the river, the upper river side where the stuff's coming in, where it'll deflect a lot of anything that's coming through there. But in its current condition, it's a lot better, 100% better than being at ground level. So a lot of that's gonna come through.
Yes.
And I'm having the piers, all that engineered because it's in the flood zone.
Yep.
I'm just, next week is when I'm due to get that paperwork, and I'll bring it into the city along with my permit for the deck.
Thank you. Great. Any other comments? Okay, this will be the last call for anybody that wants to speak for or against this item. Ask any questions for Mr. Hernandez. Okay, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of this comment, and then now the commissioners will have the opportunity to ask you questions, sir, or ask Stephanie and the village some questions about this particular case. Okay? Commissioners, what questions do you have for the applicant?
I guess, as I said, it's probably more for Sam. I guess if it's, given it's in a flood zone, there are certain engineering standards that have to be applied to build in a flood zone. I guess that, is that part of, I know in the staff's recommendation, is that part of, where would I see that language of that being incorporated in the staff recommendations and what we were submitted on?
We, upon issuing a building permit, we check for floodplain, and his plat has a notation there. I can't tell if it's 3 inches or 3 feet above the floodplain, and he would have to make sure that he's got flow-throughs and is built at least at the base flood elevation. So we would catch that during the building permit, not necessarily during the variance, but this does create a unique hardship for him.
Okay.
Mr. Richardson?
Sir, variances are typically granted on hardships. Do you have a hardship why you would need that big of a deck to encroach upon on the setbacks that much?
Well, I need to be able to get into place. Now, does it have to be that wide or that big? Coming out 10 feet, you know, it's not really that big of a deck,
Right.
you know. But I need to be able to get in the property. So I need a deck. Now, what size? You know, it's
Right.
either gonna be 8 or 10 feet. 8 foot's gonna be, really restrict me on a house that high and stuff, and then only 8 feet. Room outside, it's 10 foot. I wanted to go bigger.
Right.
And then when I got looking, I said, it's too big. I would have had to re-engineer the whole deck. So I went with a 10-foot deck, which is pretty simple, you know, and I was gonna overbuild it. And it was funny because me and the engineer were looking at it, and we were discussing the footings.
Right.
And he was telling me my footings that I designed were way too big. You know, I said, wait a minute, it's supposed to be the other way around, you know? So I want to go 30 inches deep, put some rebar in it, it's going to be a 12-inch pier. Just for the simple fact that if there's water coming through, it's not going to move, you know?
So you do own lot 6 as the site plan we have here?
Yes.
You have lot 6.
Yes, sir.
So would you be opposed to replating that into one?
Well, I'd rather not because I have those 3 lots. I don't have them. Let me see. I have 5, 6, and 7.
Right.
He sold it as a package.
Right.
Right? So, you know, just for the simple reason that you say, I just can't move across that line, because in the future, if I decide to do something with that middle property, it's gonna be a lot smaller. So, you know, now,
I was just thinking if you replatted 7 and 6 together, you wouldn't be encroaching on that side at all.
Yeah,
You could
but
put
I'm
whatever
still-
deck you wanted on that side of the building, and you would have whatever.
if that was the only side, I would really consider it, or I would probably do that, but I got 3 sides that I'm hitting there, so. You know, so if I'm gonna do 2, I might as well just do all 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a follow-up question on that, Mr. Hernandez. So the plans that we have as a proposed deck that wraps around.
Yes, sir.
Your stated purpose is to get access into the property. Did you look at potentially reducing the front part so you aren't encroaching on the front part of the house? Did you look at reducing on the side?
Well, on the side, I'm only encroaching at the corner.
Yes, but you're still encroaching.
The rest of it's probably within the 10 feet. I would walk pacing it out there, and I think it's only an area at that corner. So if I done it's still not gonna meet my 10 feet, from my property line. But coming around the side of the house, to the west, there's a door right there. There's like a little square, I don't know, there's an old, concrete platform there right now.
This is you're referring to this?
Yes, sir,
Right
that's
here.
it.
So for the commissioners, it's the
Yeah, so I want-
handrail that I think he's referring to there?
Yeah, that concrete thing, I gotta get rid of it. It doesn't, it's not safe and it don't look good or anything. So from that side, I'm within the 10 feet. It's where I come out to the north and then I hit that corner there. And the 10 foot would be like a foot away from the edge of the house. So, I need to move it out. So it doesn't help me. See, it's 2.21 feet.
Yeah,
From the corner, so that would put me right up against the house. I wouldn't be able to do a wraparound. And the wraparound, since I have a door in the north and a door in the west, it just makes sense to be able to walk around the house, the outside, to get in either door. And then where it comes around the side of the house, there's a bedroom window there. I kind of wanted a deck there, so if there's an emergency or something, I can get out that window and not have an 8-foot drop, land on the deck there and get out.
Yes,
I
sir.
have several egresses from the house.
Just one additional question for me. Where are the stairs going to be coming up to this deck in this?
They're gonna be on the, eagle side. It'll be a 3-foot square, 36-inch deck coming down.
Okay, so on the east side then?
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna have to
So-
move in from that corner about 1.5 feet, I think, to meet right close to the property line.
Okay, so they would come across the front of the house when you're looking at it?
Well, they're gonna come up, see, this way, on the side here.
Okay. I think that would be in Lot 6, would it not? Or am I missing?
No, it's a 2.87 feet at that corner,
Yes, sir.
see?
Yep.
So I was gonna move it over about 1 foot in from the edge of the house, so I could have my 36 inches. I wanted to go 42 inches on the stairs and the deck, on the stairs coming up, so there'll be plenty of room, but I'm gonna have to do a 36 to be able to get anything up those stairs now.
Okay, thank you.
Like appliances and stuff like that, you're changing out refrigerators and stuff. You don't want a 24-inch stairway.
Yeah.
Can't get nothing up.
Commissioners, other question for the applicant?
Just so I understand, I guess the stairs then and the hatched-in portion on the plat, it shows at the edge of the house it's 2.8 or 2.87 feet away and then 1.68. Are we saying the stairs continue north on the Lot 7 coming down out of that hatched area?
They'll be right at that edge right there.
Right at that edge, and they'll be
Yeah.
going north? Okay, but they're not going on to Lot 6?
No, they won't be on lot six.
Okay.
It'll be really close to that line, but, because it's at an angle, the further out you go, that's where I never realized that house was twisted like that or built. But, oh well.
Well, but you're not showing where the stairs toe out
Yeah,
onto
they
the
didn't put the
ground.
stairs on there.
You probably need to show that, because if you go just perpendicular to that hatched area and go out down 8 feet and you go with the standard stairs, you're gonna be very close, if not, you may have to move those stairs further to the middle of the house rather than you're trying to put it on the edge. I don't think you're gonna be able to do that
They put them on the north end there, maybe?
on the north end, and I don't think you can put them on the very edge and still
Yeah.
go and stay on your lot. Just the geometry of the height and the typical stairs, not.
Well,
gonna
I mean, I'm not opposed to putting them on the north end. I need some stairs there, so.
I-
I was gonna park under the house, I think it's 8 foot. So I was gonna make like a little parking ramp, and come, if it's raining and stuff, snowing, you pull under the house, and then you walk right up, quickly up those stairs, and you're under a porch right there, so. But, I mean, I can walk under the deck and crack. and get the
That would
stairs.
be my only suggestion, is that, like I said, based on what, if I understood what you were saying, you know, if you go on the same line that the house is going, those.
Yeah, that would put me really close to that line. I mean, I was gonna move the deck, not at the very edge of the house, maybe 18 inches in, and then come out to another 18 inches on the other side, which still is below or 1 foot in and 2 foot out, which still puts me inside the property line, but not, and it'd be toward the back. So I'd have to really lay it out there. I'd have to put a line there where my property line is and make sure I don't cross it, that's all.
So I guess my question to Sam is, when they go through the building permit, will that be, I guess that would be my note, is they need to show where the stairs, I know obviously they go into the deck, but where they top out in relation to the property lines. That should be something that should be noted to be reviewed.
Because, and to follow on that point, because as stated today, if we grant the variances with the setbacks stated, he'd have to build within the constriction we placed on those variances.
I'll just put it on the north side. It's not that big a deal. I'll put it right dead center of it, you know, where the entrance is, and put my stairs toward the east, toward Eagle, you know, which is it'll only come down 10 feet, I think it is, from my guesstimate when I looked at it. I haven't put the stairs on paper yet, so.
Yeah, you need to do that, because it's pretty tight with
When
the
I
elevation.
submit my whole deck plan, they'll be in there. But I haven't really sat there and measured it out to
Yep.
see. So I don't know that exact stair drop.
Okay.
I think it's about 10 feet though.
Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant?
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I was on planning and zoning back in '87, and I think we had setback variances, and I was just wondering if there's still such a thing in Ruidoso.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
have setbacks?
Yes, ma'am. Great question. He's requesting a variance to those setbacks. So this would enable him to build within those setbacks. He's still on his own property with the proposed plan in front of us. The proposed plan would indicate that he would build into those setbacks, and he's requesting a variance on that.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked is because I cannot remember the footage for setbacks from the property line. I just can't remember. But there was a certain amount of footage that you had to be back off your line before you could build anything, and I was just wondering if that still held.
Yes, ma'am, it is, and it's noted in the packet or on the agenda. It says how many feet he's looking to encroach into each setback.
Okay. And could you tell me that? I don't have the paperwork in front of me. My brother has all that.
Yes, ma'am, so he's.
On the west side, just on the west side.
On the west side, I believe,
That's my only concern is the west side.
I believe he's looking to encroach 8.3 feet into the 10-foot setback.
Okay. And that's legal now.
No, ma'am. That's why he's asking for the variance.
Oh, for that, for the whole thing. So is there any way that the 8'3" could be reduced?
At the
We're just-
purview of the commission, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If I may remind you, the public hearing has been closed.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for your questions. The public hearing has been closed, so I was out of line there. I'm sorry. Commissioners, any other questions, any comments?
And I'm sorry, one last thing. By the way, I was considering making that side that to the west are 8 feet instead of 10 feet. I was looking at that, but I was gonna ask for the 10 and it might make it 8 feet, but I'll make it 8 feet if it's gonna help anything.
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
Comments, questions? So I have one comment, Mr. Hernandez, and then I'll ask the rest of the commission. I understand you need access to this property, and this might be a logical way to get the most amount of deck for this property. but getting access to the property and having a wraparound deck that goes into two different parts of the variance is a little bit different. This is just my opinion, looking at the plans provided and the photos. You should still be able to get steps that are well within your property bounds that don't go into the variance. It just might not be the deck size that you want as described here. So that's kind of my comment on that. Unless I'm mistaken, it seems like you could be within the setbacks if you just had steps going up and a small landing in front of the front door. Did you look at that proposal?
Just put in a small porch on the front door?
Yes, sir.
On the north side?
Yes, sir, and then steps that go up along the side of the house to that small porch? Did you pursue that option?
Yes, I looked at that, but again, it's a big house, big front end, 8 foot in the air, and then I'm gonna have a 4-foot deck, 2 foot wider in my front door. It's gonna look, I don't know. It's not really functional for a family to go out there and sit on the front porch and look at the stars and, enjoy the outdoors and ruidoso, which is the whole point here.
Yep.
And that wraparound deck was, I need entrance on both sides, so I said, well, I'll just wrap it around. Now, again, that corner, I can cut it at a 45, and redo it, but I'm still within the 10, I'm still not gonna clear my 10 feet.
Yes, sir.
It'll be maybe, right now, it's 2 foot, it might be 5 feet. Because that 45 is not gonna cut off that much, because I still need to be able to come around. So if I'm gonna have a 10 foot and then go to a 3 foot turn there, it's gonna look odd. That was my only thing there. I don't want it to look cattywampus,
Yes, sir.
Only word I can think of is.
The, a follow-up question on that then, there's a side setback that you would be requesting a variance for, and it sounds like that's not necessarily primary, but a secondary, because that would be here on the side.
Which side is that, east side?
Yeah, that would be the east
Yes,
side
sir.
here.
Well, I still want a deck there to go to that bedroom window, but it doesn't have to be 10 feet. I can make that 8 feet, but it'll still put me 4 foot, 0.02 feet from the setback.
Okay.
So it still doesn't give me I'm still on my property. I can make it a little smaller, but I just left it 10 feet because, when I was asking for the variance, I didn't know if 4 feet's or 2 foot's gonna make a difference there.
Okay.
It can, if it does, I can make that 8 feet. On this corner up here, I can make a 45 there. But I still need from that corner of the house, I still need ample room to be able to make the turn.
Yeah.
Where it looks and feels good. That's gonna cut off maybe a couple feet. So I don't know, my math is in my head right now.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm still not
Yeah, you're still within.
clearing my setbacks, either way.
Yes, sir.
That was a whole,
And Sam, question for you. The way that it is written, we're voting on all or nothing, so he can't say he can have this setback versus this setback versus this setback.
So that is his full request, but if you all did reduce it and still approve some portion of the variance, that would be appropriate. So whatever it is that you all said is what we would hold him to during the building permit process.
Okay, thank you.
on the north side, where if I put the stairs there, I still have 40 feet to the river.
Yeah.
So it's not like.
That's why I was thinking of it.
Yeah, it's quite a ways, and on the west side, me personally, I always thought that property line didn't curve like it does at an angle. It should go straight right to the river, which would have cleared that corner very well. But all the way around that property, there's plenty of room. It's not gonna lock anybody in. There's nobody until after the river. If there was another yard or another dwelling on the same side of the river, yeah, I could see where you don't want to get all crunched up in there. But it's all open right there, as the pictures. So I didn't see, it's 40 feet from that little rock wall on the west side of the house, 44 feet to the river.
Okay, thank you for that additional context. I do
Mr.
appreciate it.
Chairman, Commissioners, this is an irregular shaped lot. It is smaller than our minimum R1 lot size. and with the position of the home,
Sure.
it does make it difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Sam. Commissioners?
Yeah, I'd be inclined to grant it the width that he's got there simply because you've got an elevated house in the floodplain, and if you've got to get out, having a 10-foot wide deck is better than trying to put a 3 or 4 foot deck to try to stay within the setbacks.
Yeah.
And if it's engineered properly for, floodplain and it adheres to the design constraints, it should be fine. And I think it's better from a safety perspective if you've got an issue in the house and you have to get out. And
Was that a motion, Commissioner?
okay, that's a motion.
If not, if it's just a comment, that's fine, but I will entertain a motion if there is one on the board.
I'll make the motion to approve it as requested with, the only potential additional thing is to look at, so the stairs don't encroach into lot 6, put that additional,
Just make a note, put the stairs on the north
Yeah.
end of the deck, and it'll be,
and if that's okay with the
that's
applicant.
fine, that'll work.
Yeah, so just to clarify, stairs will be within the variances or not encroaching on any variance. Is that the motion that you would like to make, Commissioner Hall?
Well, I'd like to have the motion that the stairs stay entirely on lot 7.
Okay.
It should be shown on the engineer drawings when they get the final drawings for the deck,
Okay.
the location of the stairs. And if it doesn't encroach any further or something, then it should be fine.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any final discussion from the board? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Ball,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McElina,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
I believe Stephanie has some paperwork for you to sign. Okay. While they're signing that, I'm going to explain the next two. Although they're separate cases, I'm going to talk about rezone in general, just to educate or to make sure we're all operating on the same page. Applicants for a rezone come to this board, state their required or desired rezoning of a particular property. This board will deliberate on it, and then we recommend to village council. So it's important to note that the village council has the final say. We just either recommend approval of the rezone or recommend denial of the rezone. That being said, the council does listen to our opinion, so as we're talking through this today, please state your facts pretty clearly. So the next one we'll go to, 6B on your agenda item, petition to rezone case RZ 2023-156. Sam, will you tell us about this item?
Thank you. With us today, we have Michael Hoff petitioning to rezone from R1 to C1, located at 197 Meander Drive, Lot 36B. I'll let him explain what he plans to use the property for and why the R1 zone isn't fitting for his intentions, so.
Thank you. Mr. Hoff, do you mind coming down and we'll swear you in? You'll just state your name and say you'll tell the truth today.
Mike Huff.
Thank you. You'll tell the truth today? Okay, great, Mr. Huff, thank you. Sir, so tell us a little bit about your application here today, or petition, I should say.
Okay, what I've done, if you go clear to the last page of this, it has the replat of this, where I've taken footage off of the other 2 lots and put it onto this lot in order to achieve the 1 acre requirement for a C1.
And to clarify, it's this,
Yeah.
the plat that you see on page 3 of his application or his case report, page 25 in the full packet.
Anyway, what I've done is taken the back 100 feet off of those 2 lots and put it onto the end lot there, which would put it at more than an acre in acreage in order to get, to achieve a C1. And what I plan to do with the C1 is basically what is straight across the street from that property, which is storage units. And probably build a shop as well. And that would all be enclosed with an 8-foot fence as well.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that description of events and what your intended goal is. At this time, we will open the public hearing to see if there's anybody that is for or against this item, if there's any questions for the applicant. And I believe we had, just so that way we're on the same page, there was some written feedback from James Stows about the property.
He is also online.
Oh, is he?
Yes, I had originally had, I guess I was a little unclear on exactly what the property or the lot that was actually being requested, the rezoning. Because the way the map looked on the letter that we received, it looked like it was a commercial rezoning request all the way from property 191 and 193 and 197. So my initial opposition to that was rezoning all of that from R1 to C1 zoning. But after conversations I believe we had, they explained to us that 91 and 93 of this property is going to remain R1. And if that's the case, then we wouldn't have any opposition to this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Other comments? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none, we're going to end public comment on this item. Commissioners, now would be your time to ask the applicant questions, or Sam, any clarifying question?
Sam, I have a clarifying question on C1 zoned properties. Is there a minimum lot width requirement on those properties?
I don't believe we do have that. Stephanie, do you?
There's not a minimum lot,
Oh, yeah,
square
100.
footage, but the minimum lot frontage is 100 square feet.
100 square feet as far as lot frontage? I was
Not
just
square
wondering.
feet, 100 feet.
Linear
Or
feet.
100 feet width, sorry, not square
Linear
feet.
feet. And, sir, I know that you'll go through site planning in the future when you're looking to build your proposed storage unit, should this get accepted by the council. Orient us, if you have an idea in your head, on how your units would look, right? Are there going to be storage units going all the way across behind lot 348 and 358? Or are they just going to be primarily be on lot 368?
On just the one lot. That is a hillside. There's nothing I'd have to do a ton of excavation in order to put anything up there.
Okay,
The only reason why I adapted the additional acreage was so I could get the C1 zoning on that lot that
gotcha.
exists.
and so
The storage units, I'm gonna have entrances off of Meander. I have to put in 2 entrances. What I understand, they're requiring, that I actually pave the areas in between storage units and getting in and out. I want to make a statement, so I'm on record about this. I feel that that might be a mistake for the simple reason it is higher than the property that's straight across the street from me on Meander. And if I do non-pervious surfaces on my property, the only direction it can go is straight towards them.
the water is what you're
Yes.
clarifying. Yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that if they hold to the non-pervious surfaces, on, when I do come to do the storage units, that it really needs to be a gravel surface or something that it would absorb the water on site that would fall on that site instead of running off downhill.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that comment. And if you'll stay put, there might be some other questions from the commissioners, so.
Okay.
I have one for Sam. The reason that we can entertain this is because across the street, it is zoned C1. So that would be considered adjacent, even though there's a street in between the property.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the other question, is this at the corner of Meander and Gavilan Canyon? Is that where this lot is? Is it on the corner with that corner? I wasn't really clear from the
I
map.
don't know
Looked like
whether
there-
you're familiar with there was a day school for small children.
Corner of Gavilan and Meander.
So this is on the corner?
Yes.
Okay.
I
so this
believe
is-
there's a private
There's a
drive.
private driveway that goes up along the side of my property that separates Gavilan Canyon, the creek running down the side of Gavilan Canyon, and us.
Okay, you had mentioned you were going to put two entrances on Meander Drive. Is that what you were saying as
Yes.
far as? Now, now I got a question for the staff. How does that square with Section 5499, Section E, talking about access where you need 150 feet from any street for ingress and egress?
So on that, we would have to capture all of this and his previous statements during site plan development. We had mentioned to him in order to be able to develop mini warehouses, he needed 1 acre or more of land, and that's how he came up with this shape. But any of that, and as well as drainage, that'll be addressed during site plan. This would just open him up to those uses listed under the C1 zone code.
Yeah, because I mean, just looking at that particular portion of the ordinance, I don't see a way that lot, even though it's got the minimum acreage, you've got the minimum footage to put an access point in. You certainly can't put it on Meander Drive. There's only 75 feet if you need 150, so.
Yeah, I agree. We have a lot of challenges like that, and we'd have to work through it with the site plan and make sure that we have emergency services and solid waste and everybody okay with the ingress and egress at that time.
So you're telling me that with this entrances, I couldn't have an entrance onto that property?
Well, for C1 use, you need 150 feet from the nearest intersection. You've only got, you're telling me there's a private road cutting you off from Gavilan, so you got nothing on Gavilan. All you've got is on Meander, and that's only 75 feet. As it is now with the whole lot, you're fine. You've got all of it. If you were going to rezone all of it, I don't think you'd have a problem. But you've got those two others separated out as R1. Because you'd have to come down at least halfway down lot, 35B, to put your entrance in, to be in compliance.
Is there a chance that I could get a variance or from that requirement?
That would be another
It's
application.
another application.
So today, we're just deciding whether or not we would recommend this to go from R1 to C1.
If approved,
As
he would
stated.
still be required to have 2 additional approvals. It's a site plan and concept and a conditional use.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, there is a chance, yeah. You just present your application to the same board, and then any requirements that come from internal staff as well as them will be worked into the site plan.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. And again, this is just one final reminder, this is just a recommendation for approval to the village council or a recommendation for denial. So I would entertain a motion, if there is one out there.
Based upon the foregoing findings of fact for 54-65 and 54-99 of the Village Code, I move to recommend approval to the Village Council the requested zoning reclassification for case RZ 2023-156 with the conditions stated in the case report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Baugh?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
No.
Commissioner McElina?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Motion carries with 3 positive and 1 negative.
And so I believe next steps, and I don't want to speak out of turn, so I'm looking for the staff. This will come to the Village Council. The Village Council will have a discussion, and then they'll make the ultimate decision on the rezoning.
We're requesting a public hearing in August, so if that's been approved, you'll be notified.
Great. While we're getting that paperwork signed, why don't we move to 6C for the sake of time? Petition to rezone case RZ 2023-169. Sam, what can you tell us about this petition?
Thank you. Our applicant with us today is Ronnie Smith. He recently replatted 4 tracts of land into 2 and subdivided with hopes of building a single-family residence on the lot off of Randall Drive, so it no longer would have frontage to Meacham. And you're right. If you'd like to come on down.
Hi, sir. You'll just raise your hand, you'll tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Please tell us about what you're trying to do.
Well, just want to build a small place in the back, kind of shooting towards downsizing in the future.
Okay.
My wife and I are splitting our time between Arizona and here now, so something smaller.
Okay. And so you'll be looking to just rezone a portion of this property as indicated in the case, right?
Yes.
And as you replatted it. Okay. Great. We'll open it up to public comment if anybody has any public comment. I don't believe we got any responses on this one. Correct, Stephanie?
Correct.
Excuse me. Is there anybody that would like to speak on behalf or for or against this item? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public input. And at this time, we'll now open it up to board for questions for you, or if we have any questions for the staff. Commissioners, any questions, comments, clarification?
I'd just like some clarification from the staff. We've got, if I read the plat correctly, it's a little hard to see on a printed copy. There's only like 6,000 square feet in that lot that's proposed, and the development standards in R1 are 10,000 square feet minimum, unless you go to some sort of,
Well, Stephanie told me 75 by 100, and that's what we,
That's correct. He meets the minimum. It's 75 by 100. I'm sorry, it's not easy to read, but we didn't want him creating a hardship by subdividing into an irregular lot shape, and that's why he has the lot like that. And we will restrict his
well, that's-
access to Randall, his driveway.
well, I was just looking at what was in the package that was sent, single-family residence, 5492, Section 1. Part A, minimum lot area 10,000 square feet. It does say for 5466 for less than 10. So is that what's applying here, 5466, because it's less than 10,000 feet?
It's really hard, our code to enforce. It says 75 by 100 or 10,000 square feet, has both of those options. So with the rewrite, we're cleaning that up and actually reducing the minimum. But as it is now, it says 75 by 100 or 10,000 square feet, unfortunately.
Okay, so when it is 75 by 100, I take it.
Thank you.
Okay, that clarifies it for me. That's where I was confused.
And I have, sir, I have a couple of questions. So do you own this full property that was platted?
Yes.
Okay. And this is a question for Sam. The rezoning, is there a particular need for it based off of site plan and proposals? Or is it for some other reason?
It's because of his personal request to add a single-family residence there, and with the C2, he wasn't gonna be able to achieve that. And so this was a solution where he'd still be able to utilize his property if he was to be granted a R1.
Okay. And the reason I know that there are residences in C1, C2, C3, and this is just because it's a brand-new build.
Those are, yes, those are all non-conforming uses, so once the use of a single-family residence in our C2 districts stop for 90 days, they will have to be converted to commercial.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant?
What are the buildings behind the property here?
What will I be building?
Yeah,
Just a smaller house, like a little smaller cabin kind of deal.
I think the two buildings that are currently on property, what are those two?
Our residence and a detached garage.
Okay. So there's already a residence on the property?
Yes. It's actually our residence. Has been for almost 28 years now.
But the new lot he created is vacant land.
Yeah, gotcha. So are you planning on selling that other property?
No, I just want to put some money back into real estate and get it out of the bank.
Okay.
I like to be able to see it, touch it.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments?
No, Sam clarified the square footage was only my question on that.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Based upon the foregoing findings of the fact per 52-65 and 54-92 of the Village Code, I move to recommend approval of the Village Council the requested zoning reclassification for case number RZ 2023-169 with the conditions stated in the case report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll move to roll call vote.
Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Howell,
Aye.
Commissioner McElina,
aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I have one question, can I ask you? You said it goes before the Village Council?
Yes, sir.
And when will that happen?
August the 8th at 1
August
o'clock.
the 8th. Okay.
And we'll send you a
And they'll let
letter.
me know, or what?
Yes, we'll send you a letter notifying you
Okay,
of the
okay,
next hearing.
sounds great.
Yeah, as soon
Is that what this is?
as, yep.
There it is.
Just use
I
yours.
brought it with me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day.
All right, let's continue on. Item 6D, we have a variance request, PV 2023-178. Sam, what can you tell us about this?
Thank you,
variance request?
Chairman. Commissioners, we have the contractor on the property representing the applicant, Eddie Sanchez, if you want to come down, Eddie. He's requesting to encroach 4 feet into the 10-foot left side yard setbacks in M1 zone district at 137 Ponderosa Drive, Lot 4, Block 18, Unit 3 of the Ponderosa Heights subdivision. Do you want to explain your hardship for constructing this deck?
Eddie Sanchez, please state the truth.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, the homeowners are wanting to rebuild an existing deck that was over the slab that's in the back of the home. As you can see over the aerial view, the plat does not show the slab, but on the aerial view, you can see that the existing slab is there. The seller of the home demoed the deck due to safety hazards before the new buyer purchased the home. So they're just wanting to rebuild the deck over the slab.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open it up to public comment or any questions.
Yes, this is
Okay.
Teresa Meyer.
1 second, we'll call on each individual to come forward, say their name, tell the truth, et cetera. So it seems like there might be a couple of comments. So we'll have,
On the call. I'm on the Zoom.
yep, Teresa, we hear you. There's someone here in person that we were going to call on first, and then we'll get to you, Teresa. So if you don't mind coming down, we can, if you don't mind, Mr. Sanchez, scooting over to the right a little bit, and we can share the mic a little bit.
Right.
And then if you'll just state your name, relation to the property, et cetera.
It's Megan Meyer. My grandparents own the property right next door,
Okay,
so they can't really hear, so I'm kind of here for them.
okay, thank you.
Basically, I just wanted to ask, because I know the 4-foot encroachment is it for this deck right here, this part here? Because,
And is that, are you pointing to the proposed deck on the backside? Because I believe that's where.
no, we were just kind of confused at the plans itself, I guess, because I see the deck that's being rebuilt. This part here on the, I guess it's the left side, looking at it from the front. It's only part way built out, so I guess, I don't know if they're adding like the full thing to where it goes to the front of the house.
Is that the part you're talking about?
Yes, that
That part? This one?
Yeah.
On the left side. So on this, Mr. Sanchez, we have this plat here that's facing north as I have it now.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain where, in relation to this plat, that,
The deck on the, which would be the the east side,
yes?
is no longer in the plans. The only thing that's
Oh,
gonna
so
be,
you're not doing that part?
nothing
Okay.
inside that 4-foot or the
Okay.
left side of the home. The only deck is the big deck in the rear and on the west side.
Okay, all right.
I know the surveyor
Show it, yeah,
had
okay.
fun doing.
All right, and then I also had a question about, I guess, the drainage change. Cause it looks like the proposed drainage change kind of goes closer to my grandparents' part of the property. So we just wanted clarification on that.
Sure, it does show a proposed direction, and that is, I believe that was just a change to do just regular runoff, naturally runoff.
Okay, so it wouldn't, like, you're not adding anything that would cause any actual drainage flow or anything?
No,
Okay,
not at all.
all right, that's all my questions.
Thank you. Thank you for those questions.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's, Teresa, I think you were going to jump
Yeah.
on at this time if you have any questions for the applicant or the representative of the applicant.
Right, I just wanted to clarify, and I'm looking at the diagram myself as well. The 6.5 that you have on the corner of the large proposed deck area, is that currently part of the pre-existing slab?
Yes,
Okay, okay. So what you are actually doing is building over the existing slab that is currently there. The west side of the deck, or the left side is going to be the side deck, and that's proposed. And then you are not doing anything with the right side, correct?
correct.
Okay, and then the drainage is going to change, and what is the rationale for changing the drainage direction?
The survey shows proposed flow direction, but that is naturally done.
Okay.
We are not changing, no.
Okay. Okay, because I'm looking at the legend and the indicated direction of the flow that currently I see. There looks like a proposed direction change. So I just wanted to clarify to make sure that, I wanted to ask for any rationale for the change. Because it does show a change in the flow.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it
It
due
sounds
to
like,
the,
it sounds like
Okay.
the applicant stated, or the representative of the applicant stated that there is no planned flow change due
Okay.
to the fact that they are not altering the grade over there on that side, correct?
got it, okay,
Great.
all right.
Other
That
questions?
sounds good. I think that answers my questions. My daughter Megan had asked the previous questions. I appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you. Any other questions for the representative of the applicant or concerns, comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and close the public input. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah, if I understood you correctly, Mr. Sanchez, it's just, you're just building out, you're just adding on a new deck on top of an old slab that's already there that's shown on the plat here. You're not adding like anything else to the sides of the house or,
Nothing at all.
okay,
Existing west side deck is there.
okay,
We're gonna demo rebuild the, where the slab is in the rear of the home.
Mhm.
There was a deck there before it was torn down.
okay.
The new homeowners
Want
want to rebuild it, but the same footprint as the current
Oh, same
slab.
footprint,
Same
okay.
footprint. We have, to satisfy building code, why we requested the 4 feet is because we need 22 inches outside of the slab for our footing and piers.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Hold on, let me clarify something. So,
Sorry, ma'am, we did close the public hearing a second ago.
okay, I understand that, but what he just said indicates that there is a change in that there's going to be a little bit of an encroachment onto my parents' property, maybe?
No, ma'am. This is a variance request for a setback, so it would be on the property listed here. It would just be the applicant's asking for a variance on the setback.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll entertain a motion if the commission doesn't have any
Mr.
questions.
Chairman,
Yes.
based upon the foregoing findings of fact 54-97 and 54-140, 54-66 of Village Code, I move to grant the requested variance for case PB 2023-178 with the conditions stated in the case report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Baugh?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner Michelina?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Okay. We will continue on with 6E while Mr. Sanchez is signing that. Conditional use approval request, CU 2023-179. Sam, what can you tell us about this application?
Thank you. With us today, we have Rebecca Trujillo requesting approval to develop a commercial cabin rental, with the exception to the code. The conditional use typically states they need 4 or more units. You all may recognize this property as you did have a hearing, but it was for something separate that was denied. If we can just forget about that hearing and accept all the new facts as they're presented today. This is located at 2904 Sudworth Drive, Lot 1B, Block 1 of the McCarty Addition. And included in your packet were 2 for and 1 against at this lot, and they all are within the 200 feet notification area. Mr. Trujillo, would you like to come forward?
Hello again. Do you mind raising your hand?
Rebecca Trujillo. I promise to tell the truth.
Thank you.
Yes. So, yes, we did come in January and asked for the conditional use, and it was disapproved because of the parking issues that we had. I believe it was Commissioner Michelina that kind of shed light on the anterior, the front portion, and said kind of, why, look at this, maybe if you clear this out, you'll have parking. So my husband actually contacted the street department, and since we have a turn out and a turn in, they said, well, if you clear that out, that's adequate parking for 3 parking spots. So this property has been an issue and a problem in the past, and strictly because of the property. I read over some of the concerns that were sent in from the other businesses, and the reason why this property has been so problematic is because, to the neighboring businesses, is because the parking. There was never any anterior parking. So parking was, people would just park wherever they could. Well, we made parking for this, and what we have is pretty much what we have. We only have room for 3 parkings. The businesses and C2 zoning really don't support the parking requirements for businesses of C2 zoning. So first and foremost, what do you need for C2 zoning? You need employees. Well, and then you have an uncontrolled amount of patrons that go to those C2 zone businesses. What we are proposing is a controlled amount of patrons within those 3 parking spots. I will manage the business as I manage a lot of our other businesses. The bookings will go through me. I will be very, very specific of where they can park, what the agreements are, what the regulations are. I do know that there's also some local property management companies that I can look into, but until then, my in-laws live here. They live 3 minutes away from this property, and if there's any problems or concerns, they can be there within 3 minutes. So we do have somebody that is local to look after the building as well. We live in Los Lunas, New Mexico, which is a short drive from here. We do come and visit my in-laws often, and we stay at their cabin that they have, which is 3 minutes away. So and then we're also gonna have exterior cameras also. So, but our goal is to have a business that will sustain the amount of parking that we have created and alleviate any kind of problems for other businesses around us.
Okay. Thank you for explaining your application. At this time, we do have the written notes as stated by Sam, but we will open it up to anybody that is either here present or on Zoom for comments or questions to the applicant. And it looks like somebody.
Submitted something if you're writing, but I can read it if needed.
Please come down, state your name.
Hi. My name is Autumn Bartnett. I'll tell the truth.
Thank you.
My husband and I are the tenants of 105 Sleepy Hollow Drive, which is directly below this property. My mother and father-in-law own the property. And as we would be the most heavily impacted by the conditional use approval, I felt it prudent that I should speak on it. Sleepy Hollow Drive is a really quiet residential street. With the influx of the new businesses in the area, parking has been a problem. It's already been an issue. With this proposal, there would be numerous vehicles parked along Sleepy Hollow. It's my understanding that Mr. Trujillo is not a resident of Ruidoso nor Lincoln County. So as neighbors to this property, there really isn't anyone locally that we can reach out to. In January, the owner submitted a 1-cabin variance request for a 5-bedroom rental. It's my understanding from the plans that they submitted that it is now a 3-bedroom rental. However, when you look at the plans, they've added a game room, a sunroom, and a loft. Changing the number of bedrooms, that doesn't change the square footage and the number of people that are going to be in that rental. My husband and I are both locals. We manage businesses in Midtown. we all know that when people rent cabins, they bring a lot more people than they're supposed to. They do have a walk-through easement that leads down to the river, to the dispensary, to the dumpster. And that easement was granted for the owners, for maintenance of the utilities, not for a constant stream of nightly rentals. Last week, it was 4th of July, I worked 70 hours. I can only imagine that when I got home from work, there would be many cars parked in there. I need to have cars towed from the business in Midtown that I manage. I can't get a tow truck, so I can only imagine what we're going to deal with a cabin that size with 3 parking spots. So that's our concern, that regardless of the 3 parking spots in the front, there's still gonna be people on the street. We're already dealing with that with the dispensary, which I know you guys have dealt with as well. So we just felt that we didn't speak last time, but this time we probably should. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Hio, any response to those comments?
So,
Yeah, she's gonna, well, they gotta do a cross-examine, so we'll have Mr. Hio, if you have, and then, sir, we can have your comments as well.
and the reason why we changed it from 5 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms is because it is by code. You have to have 1 parking spot per bedroom. So we didn't add a game room and we didn't add a loft. I mean, that's existing, that's there. We didn't add that. It is what it is. It's right there. We didn't add any square footage to this. We did cut back on our rooms, which we are trying to abide by the code. And that's what that is. She also stated that there's nobody local. There is somebody local, and I think I addressed that in my opening statement, as well as many property management companies that we could possibly even think of going with. But there is local people here that can address any problems that arise. The size of the building that she also had concerns with is the size of the building. We can't demolish half the building to minimize square footage. The square footage is what it is. So we're trying to make a business work for the amount of parking that we have. And under the current code, it's just that we don't have enough parking. We don't have it. So we created 3 in hopes that there would be a conditional use granted for us. And because I have looked at other commission meetings, I do know that it has been done. So it's an existing building that pretty much takes up the entire square footage of the property. So it cannot, the building can't be picked up and moved. It's where it's at, and we did create parking for it.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, I believe you had a comment or a question for the applicant. Mind coming, stating your name?
I am Mike Jenkins, and I will tell the truth.
Thank you, sir.
We are currently against this because it's the parking issue. We are in litigation right now. They're trying to take our land. We have 0.14 acres, and we have a 3-bedroom house that's on there. There's 3 parking places. We need them, and they are trying to take the parking. They also have a staircase that encroaches on our land. There would be a liability issue. People are gonna come up here and party, and even if there's just this set amount that that she wants to occupy it, they're gonna party, and there's not sufficient lighting, and if there is, it would, create a hazard or a hardship on our house. These stairs would potentially create some injuries. They encroach onto our place, and until this parking issue is resolved, we are scheduled to go to court in January. I'm just against this at the current time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Hio?
Yeah, so with aspect of the stairs are there. I mean, I can't pick up the stairs and move them. And we're not trying to take the land. We're trying to use the easement as it was intended, and that's it. So we don't know what's gonna happen with that. So that part, that is irrelevant. So we don't know what's happening. What we do know is that we've created 3 parking spots, and we're trying to make this building, this property, work as a business for here in Ruidoso to generate income.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Hello.
Hi, I'm Pam Jenkins.
Hello.
It sounds like
One
there's,
second, Gwen, we'll call on you next.
Pam
Thank you.
Jenkins, and I'll tell the truth.
thank you, Pam.
Our biggest concern is the encroaching stairs at this point. I mean, the litigation, we can't do anything about. The square footage, it's true, she can't do anything about it. But saying it's a 3-bedroom doesn't make it so. That's our issue. I had a condo that was this size, and you would say 6 people, and I live here. I would say, it was right at Innsbruck. I would say 6 people, I would go over, there would be 20. Well, so these people, even if she has 6, they're gonna come down these encroaching stairs. So until we can go to court over the easement issue, which also includes this encroachment, I just don't know how this is a good idea. It's gonna be in January, but they may very well say that, because the way we read the easement laws is that it is from owner to owner. So, I mean, if she's gonna take out the stairs, you know, that's her prerogative. If she's gonna block them off, that would be another thing. But to allow people to walk up and down through our yard that are not owners, I just don't think that, I don't think she has the right to do that, and I don't know how she'll stop it. And that's what the litigation is about. It's not just about the parking, it is about the entire situation, from them wanting to make it a nightly rental and have people constantly through our yard. Like my husband said, there's no lighting back there. We can't do anything because it is her land. I know it was there when she bought the property, but these are things that they should have thought about before they bought them and wanted to turn them into an Airbnb.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Trujillo?
The encroachment stairs was approved, or whenever it was subdivided in that way. So that happened years and years ago with approval. So that is somewhat of a moot point. The stairs are there. I mean, the encroachment and the litigation is nothing about the stairs. The litigation is about the easement, the parking easement, the walkway easement, and that's it. That's what it's about.
Stairs are.
The parking easement.
Thank you, ma'am. Sounds like there's somebody on Zoom that wanted to comment.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am. We
My
can't
name
see
is
you
Gwen
on
Gomez.
Zoom. Do you mind just saying your name and stating that you'll tell the truth?
Yes, my name is Gwen Gomez, and I will tell the truth.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes. In all due respect, the lady who spoke on Sleepy Hollow about severely being affected, I am the owner of the property adjacent on Sutterth at 2906 Sutterth. We are currently in the process, as we spoke the last meeting, of redoing our property and entertaining what type of businesses we are going to be putting onto our property. The Trujillos did approach us, wanting us to give them some parking, sell them some parking, etc. This was prior to purchasing the property. Basically, what they're doing is forcing a business into something that is going to provide difficulty. They spoke about the 3 spaces in front of the building that they cleared off. I don't know if you have any paperwork or pictures of the 3 parking places there. We haven't even talked about, and I'm not sure, and I didn't ask ahead of time, and I do apologize, if a handicap parking place is required for this unit, if it is going to be a business. I've already checked into what handicap I will need. So if there is a handicap needed, That'll only be 2 spaces that are allowed, and of course, you will have to have that room. There is also a curb on those 3 places. I don't know what's going to be done with that. In working closely with Mr. Sanchez from the street department in our property, we do not have curbs, but we have ample amount of room to drive around and not hit people walking on the street and have any type of accidents. They do not currently have a driveway permit, or nor have they asked for a driveway permit. So I don't know how these 3 vehicles are going to be jumping the curb itself. I would like to also address the comment made about the controlled amount of people. I don't know how that's going to be possible, that she stated that they would be able to control it. We work diligently on our property. We stay late at night, and we can't even control it while we're there. As far as towing companies, we do have someone lined up, and we will be putting ample amount of signage on our property. What I'm going to tell you is what's going to happen if this project is approved is that they will be parking on our land. We know that. It is too easy and it's too quick. So again, we're going to be towing, and we're worried about the parking places that they have that are only 3 places, and how are people going to navigate? Can you picture those 3 places with big trucks, et cetera? So it's just a disaster in the works. These people were well aware of the obstacles that were presented at the time of purchase. It would be just like me in my building purchasing it with intent that was not approved prior to. So I am against this project because of the parking, because of safety, and because of the people that it affects. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hill?
Yes, so we can't, nobody in this town can say that their patrons are only going to park in their spots. What we can do is go into an agreement with our renters, and that's what you do. Whenever you rent a property, you have an agreement. You have understanding, you have circumstances, you have that in place whenever you rent. Now, if you're familiar with renting or Airbnb or VRBO, anything like that, the guests can give the owner a rating. Well, the owners can also give the guests a rating. So if you're a guest that has a bad rating on Airbnb, VRBO, anything like that, we are not wanting to rent to people that will not follow our rules. So we have an agreement. Another thing too is what has been done in the past. It is the past, and we can't be held accountable for other people's actions and prior ownership.
May I comment on that?
Yes, ma'am.
I understand about renters, and I think if this was a month-to-month rental agreement, and you had Mr. and Mrs. Smith and their 12 children renting, that is something that can be controlled. And I don't think anybody would be probably against that. Everybody would get to know that neighbor. We would work with them and probably agree. But we're losing the control factor. And I think what's going to happen, Mr. Hill, is going to be just the opposite possibly for you. If your guests get towed enough, they might write derogatory comments about your place and say, don't go there because guess what? You're going to be towed. I've already checked into what is required on our property to say do not park there. We need the verbiage, and I've checked with tow companies. I have 3 different tow companies who are ready to go, who will sit there and monitor it. And it's going to be, as I said in the last meeting, quite lucrative for them because they are going to be parking on our property. And ma'am, as far as the 3 parking places, you do not have a curb, nor do you have a driveway permit. So those aren't quite parking places yet. And visiting with the street department, I asked them point blank, are those parking places? And I don't want to, it's secondhand because Mr. Sanchez is not there to comment on this, but I asked him point blank, are those legal parking places? And he said, no, they do not have a driveway permit and they have curbs there. Thank you.
So there is a curb, but there's also a turn in and a turn out. So the curb is in the middle. There's a turn in where it's shown on the plan, and you drive all the way through. It's a U-shape parking spot. It's not 100% a parking driveway. because it's not a driveway, it's parking spots. Now, we cleared it out because we didn't get a permit to have a parking, I don't know what she was talking about, but we didn't get a permit, nor did we feel like we had to, because we were clearing out anterior landscaping to make room for parking. And there's a turn in, there's a turn out, just like any other U-shaped parking spot.
Chairman, members of the commission, I can clarify. The Public Works Director said that if their intention was to have those on-street, off-street parking spaces, that it would suffice. They would just need to get a permit. Right now, we're working on a striping plan for that corridor of Sedrith. And so if they wanted to develop those off-street parking spaces, then they wouldn't be allotted the on-street parking that will be striped and developed here soon along Sedrith. And so we're waiting to see the outcome of this hearing and what the requirements are going to be. But we do have options. But if they did have the on-street parking striped, that wouldn't work for this because it wouldn't be only for the occupants of this building.
Thank you for the clarification.
So either or, and if we want to do the 3 parking spots, we wouldn't get that, because if it was approved, we wouldn't necessarily need them.
Thank you.
No, you will need the off-street parking. Because if it's on-street striped,
On-street, yes, that's
yeah,
right.
we're not
Not
gonna
the
be able
on-street.
to hold them for just your
Not
business.
the on-street, that's what I.
May I ask if a handicap is required?
It is not.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for the applicant? Yes, sir.
They were full aware of.
Do you mind coming?
The house was listed as having 0 parking before they bought it. My wife contacted the realtor after they were trying to strong arm take our land to use as parking for them. They were warned ahead of time. They were aware of all of this prior to closing on that house. It's not like this just jumped up and
Thank you, sir.
instantly created.
Any comment on that? And
Yes,
Go
our
ahead, Ms.
realtor, whenever we purchased the land, our realtor said that we have a parking easement. So there was a parking easement. Now, after that first meeting, we tried to make more in the front. We tried. And we're doing what was kind of, not suggested, but, brought some light on the possibilities of anterior parking. Now, I don't feel like this building has been a problem because of 2 big things. The parking, our property line goes into Sedrith, goes into that road. So we are paying taxes on that property. Well, that parking was, whenever it was taken away from that building. It was taken away. So that's one problem. Another problem is because of the building itself the footprint of the building is built with pretty much every part of that land property that was approved by village officials. The anterior parking that was taken away was approved by past village approval officials. So we can't solve problems with the same mindset as to which problems were made. We have to look outside the box, and that's what we were trying to do. Trying to make 3 parking spots to make this business work.
I appreciate that. And I will ask for those that are commenting, if there's something maybe else, or if there's someone that hasn't commented to date, or something that hasn't been covered, just for the sake of the discussion. Yes, ma'am.
I just ask for this easement and encroachment is coming up in this hearing. We are asking the judge to rule on that easement to make it clear in writing that it is from owner to owner or those encroaching stairs. I just ask for this to be denied until that issue can be resolved. If the judge says that anybody can use that,
any last comments? And then-
Yes, so commenting on hers. This proposed plan is based upon the 3 parkings that we created, not based on litigation that is going on.
Okay. Thank you for that comment. Any other folks that have not had the opportunity to comment and would like to comment at this time? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up to commissioners to ask the applicant or Sam for questions, clarifications, or any comments that you might have.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hitchens.
I heard Mr. Trujillo say you have an in and out. Several times you have in and out. So the in I'm seeing is actually the in for the chiropractor next door. He has a sign there. How do you propose going in that and going around the sign?
Yeah, so we have talked to him numerous times, and he has given us access to use that turn in, and we are gonna move the sign for Dr. Vicky, repaint it and relocate it to where she would like.
Okay.
So that is,
So how wide are those parking places? Because I'm looking at your map here on your site plan. I'm familiar with this property as well. So the distance, as it goes further up Sutter toward where the porch is,
yes,
what is that dimension there from the sidewalk to the building?
from the sidewalk to it's 10 feet. It's enough for a parking, 9 feet, I believe.
Is that
So-
included, sorry,
Okay,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman, just to clarify,
Does,
that includes the sidewalk?
does not include the sidewalk.
So you're showing on your site plan that you show 3 cars in front of that,
Yes,
in front of this business. If I'm reading it correctly, hopefully, I think I am. With that concrete wall that comes off the back of the building, by that sign there for the chiropractor, you're actually showing that car parking on the chiropractor's parking
let me.
over on their
Oh,
property.
that's just actually showing how you drive in and drive out. This right here is not a parking area. That's just showing the motion of where the car would have to come in
So-
and exit.
Okay, so if that's the case, what is the distance between the porch and your property line? Do you know that dimension?
Porch and the property line?
Yes, where that sign for the chiropractor is, that, at that edge of the property line,
Yeah.
where that concrete wall is, what is that dimension from, what is that distance from the porch that's coming off the property, off the
Don't know
building?
that. I know
So-
that it's enough room for a vehicle to drive through, so however wide, my husband has a very large truck, and we talked about large trucks already. We've already measured it out with his large truck, his oversized elongated bed, and then the width of it, and it's plenty of room to drive in and drive out.
So if someone's in the middle, they've got to come across the sidewalk and get across the curb.
That's the whole reasoning for a one cabin rental, because if you're gonna have the 3 in there, you're gonna have them within the same party. It's gonna be the same people that are in that building. So, hey, Mom, I'm gonna move my car. Can you move yours up so I can get out? Something like that. It's not different patrons or different people that are renting. It's one rental.
Mr. Trujillo, I have a question for you. What other businesses have you attempted to put into this property?
Within C2 zoning,
No, I know it can go into C2. What, you and your husband, outside of a nightly rental, have you attempted to source any other businesses that are within
we have not.
permitted uses?
No, we have not. We bought the property at the end of December, kind of thought, well, it will make a beautiful rental. And that's kind of where our minds went. We do have a construction business to where we do a lot of remodels, we do a lot of new builds. We have a real estate business. We have businesses, and that's just kind of where our thought process is and went. And within the 6 months of owning it, no, we have not. This is pretty much what we have thought of because of the parking restraints. And what could be allowed in there.
Yeah, because I think there's the question of the conditional use, which a conditional use for a multifamily structure is 4 or more dwelling units.
Correct.
And so we're already starting with the condition, which is not normal for a C2. And then we're doing another variance where we're doing less than 1 unit and just doing a nightly rental.
Yes, which it has been done in the past, with just even in March, it was approved with the C2 variance for a nightly rental. It was approved, so.
It's been denied. So
No,
it's
no,
really, it has been denied. So it just depended on property, the scenario of the property.
The March,
I think the one you're talking about is on Carrizo Canyon Road, and they had ample parking.
it's on Sutter.
629 Sutter.
I remember that one. That one that we've denied in the past. I'm not talking about past case, because there have been instances where we've denied, and there's been instances where we've approved, depending on the property.
Yeah. And it being an existing property and within the amount of space that it has.
It didn't have the existing issues with parking, didn't have the pushback from those that are sharing the surrounding area. So I guess why I'm asking these questions in the thought process is, it didn't seem like folks were opposed to you buying the property. It seemed like some folks were willing to work with you for other uses. So I was just clarifying that this conditional use, if we approve it today, is the only path that you've pursued, or have you pursued other paths to make it a viable business?
This is what we have pursued.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richardson, yes, sir.
so I'm looking on the site plan, the actual survey. On the Sutter side, it's showing 52.41 feet. Is that what we see there from property line to property line before the land goes around behind and ties into where the next door hair and nail salon type strip center is? Is that what we're seeing, 52.41 feet? Is that your road frontage? Is that-
Of the straight property, yeah, that's
Yes.
the straight one, and
Okay.
then it curves in, so
So
there's additional.
That's your
footage.
proposed parking area, would be 52.41 feet if the porch wasn't on the building itself.
If the porch, the porch?
Is that what I'm seeing? I mean, I see you see the porch on the front of the building that comes out to the park and comes out to Sutterth to the sidewalk,
Can you direct me to what?
which would
picture
be
you're
to
looking
the
at?
west, the very west side of your house. The very west
The
property
awning
line,
to the front door, Mr. Beal.
right there where your front door is,
Oh, the
that
front
that
door,
porch.
okay.
So you're going to deduct some for that porch being out there,
Correct,
correct?
and the turnout is right prior to that porch.
Okay, so it's 52.41 feet total property frontage, including the porch. And a typical parking space is 20 feet long.
So the 52.41 is not including the porch. The porch is right over here, which where the inlet is,
Okay,
that's where the porch is.
so you're going to try to make 3 parking spaces into 52.41 feet.
Well,
And a typical parking space is 20 feet long, and
20,
a parking lot space is 10 foot by 20 foot long.
I don't, but that would be a typical parking lot.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just saying, you're trying to put 3 cars in a 52-foot parking spot there, which is,
There are
that's a lot of
dimension
cars in
requirements
52.
for parking spots.
Which are?
I believe that was a question for you, Stephanie.
I know, I'm looking.
Okay.
That's not what's being heard, so it's not part of the case.
Just trying to figure out how we're going to fit 3 cars in there.
Let's see.
If we're going to say it's 3 parking spaces, it should be 3 parking spaces. If you take 3 large trucks like Mr. Trujillo's talking about, I own large trucks. I know what they are. You're going to shove 3 in there, it's going to be tight. And then,
Yeah,
you know,
and we have large trucks too.
I understand. I
Well,
understand.
and tight doesn't mean undoable, especially whenever it is one rental.
There's the requirements.
I can't say it.
Okay.
I'm too old for that. I have a hard time finding my
Put it
desk.
on the record. Commissioner
So there's
Richardson
a-
stated he's too old.
I'm too old yet. I'll second that too.
There's different requirements for 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 75 degrees, and 90 degrees. Which one would you like me to read off?
So I guess it'd be straight in parking because you're going to park parallel. I mean, you're going to park one behind another, so it's going to be straight in parking.
So the width is required to be 9 feet. And the depth fluctuates between 18.2 to the largest being 22.
Okay, so an average of 20, roughly.
Yeah, 20 with one way, it says. So I think that's.
So that's 52 feet. That's not 3 parking spaces as we're gonna call it. It's 2 parking places with a little space between them. Okay, that's all I got.
Other questions for the applicants, commissioners?
Why didn't we just consider, if you're gonna make it an Airbnb, why didn't you just consider rezoning it to R1?
There's not.
We would have loved to do that, but we were told we couldn't.
We just went through a couple of those here.
No, sir, she's not contiguous, that would be spot zoning. So unless she was
that'd be
able to
spot
bring
zoning.
it all the way up with other properties behind her, she was not afforded that opportunity.
Oh, okay, that's just my question. Okay, I get that.
Samantha, you said there's going to be striped parking there?
Yes, we're in the process of putting on-street parking along that corridor from the intersection of Meacham and Sutter to the roundabout.
Right?
But businesses require a minimum number of off-street parking for that use. And on-street parking couldn't be dedicated to just their business.
Right.
And so if we do stripe it for on-street parking, then she wouldn't be able to develop her off-street parking that she has put here, and they wouldn't be allowed a driveway permit. So it's one or the other. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Chairman, so I got Samantha, if we did approve the 3 parking spaces, then if you did on-street parking, they would have to skip her section and start back over. Is that correct? So, Ms. Trio, in the spirit of cooperation, you've heard the comments about Sleepy Hollow. Would you be willing to fence that section off, somebody could park back there?
They've already fenced it off.
Okay, would you be willing to gate off the stairs? Pending
Yeah,
fire
we could definitely work with that, absolutely. We could put, because the back property has a nice porch too. They don't have to use those stairs. They can walk around Suttereth and go down if they want to go down to the water. We can put a chain not to come down or a gate, or we can definitely work with that.
And not knowing the structure, is there other doorways that you would not have to utilize the stair?
There's only one door out on that backside.
So it's on the west end of the structure?
The,
Am I thinking right?
It'd be on the north
let me
end.
look at the,
North end.
Yeah, it's one pointing toward Sleepy Hollow. When you come up the stairs, it's right there.
But it does.
Move forward and listed in the conditions, they must have 3 parking spaces, then they would have to follow through and construct that. But no, it has not been granted.
It doesn't look like the math adds up for 3 parking spaces. So I don't see how you get 3 in there, and that's not including whatever may or may not be in the litigation. I don't know what,
And that'll be upon your all's shoulders, is to ensure the minimum parking is met, because he's only doing a driveway permit, which grants them to access off of our road. And so whatever conditions you all place in minimum parking spaces you think they'll be able to achieve, then that's what the conditions will read, and that's what code enforcement will be instructed to.
So
Similar to what we had on Carrizo with the mechanic.
If they were to apply for the driveway permit and it cuts the spaces down to 2, then where are we at? Are they coming back in to go in front of us?
Well, then there wouldn't be any off-street parking in front of ours, but there would be off-street parking near ours.
What we had planned was on-street parking, and it would be striped, and it would be available for the public. But what you need to demonstrate is that you have off-street parking that'll be appropriate for the type of use that you're using that building for.
So that would be the proposed 3. And with this, the 52.41, and with the regulations of an average 18 feet long, yeah.
I don't recall.
And this porch, where it is I think a 6-by-6 porch. So right here where the cars come in, there is room here. So this turns at an angle, allowing more to come in also. So this parking right here turns right like this. The sidewalk is not blocked. And then this car will come in, and then that car will come in.
So you're saying that's a 10-foot porch? What you're saying? 6-foot porch? Okay, if you-
It's on the,
It's on this right.
I don't even know what the direction. The porch is on the west side. All the way to the, pretty much, because that building was built on the property line. Yeah, so that is all the way towards that property line on this side, on that point. So that porch is pretty much borders that property line, which is all the way over here, allowing more, that vehicle to drive in, kind of angle, and everything come behind it.
On the photos, I'm not seeing the setback, the front setback. Do you know how far behind the sidewalk your property line starts?
No, she's already said she doesn't know that. I asked her that, so.
Right, it's right here. It's on the map. That's where our property line, and that's where the,
Well, she's asking how far it is from the sidewalk to your
sidewalk borders our property.
building.
Yeah, because our property even goes out further into the street, so,
We can't count the street.
yeah, we
That's
can't
easy.
count
So,
that. But the property line,
from the edge of the sidewalk
Further
to
out.
the house.
yeah.
it doesn't show.
We don't have that
There would have
It
to
dimension.
be,
doesn't show that, so this property line, and I don't have the actual but our property line goes all the way out into the street. So answering your question, I believe that the sidewalk would be the border of where we could park. Because if our property line goes all the way out, there's not a second property line.
So
Right?
you believe, how far into Sudworth Drive does your property encroach?
I can't be specific on that, because
I think. the
Maybe we
challenge-
should table it and get that marked, because if you own that much into the roadway, that makes a difference.
The challenge I'm having, and I think the commissioners are having with the application, is you've got a certified survey up here, and then another drawing down here that shows the parking. The parking drawing needs to be on that same drawing to scale, so we can adequately look at it. I've seen this before where someone's, well, this is what it is here, but this drawing down below has no reference or no property lines on it, so I can't tell you where it is in relation to your property lines or whether there actually is or isn't the 52 or
Yeah.
58 feet or wherever that is. Those two need
Yeah,
to
and the
be overlaid.
58.4 is the actual building.
Yeah, you got one of the building and one of the property. You need to have the building and the parking on the property plat. And that's an any engineer can do that, or the surveyor can do that. Because with the second drawing down below showing the parking, I have no way to relate it back to your property corner, so I can't adequately evaluate what you're showing there. It's just a drawing. I just don't know what it is in real space.
Commissioner, it sounds like, and combined with Sam's suggestion, that there might be a path forward if you would want to motion to table this discussion item, or so we can have proper documentation, so we can give this the appropriate analysis. That would be a motion that I would entertain.
We would need your corners staked in the front of your property, and we could either do a site visit collectively as a commission, or take photographs, because the way that it's being presented now, we don't have a clear image of where your property line is in the front.
And, because there needs to be setback for parking. Even if they can't, even you get 5, 6, 7, 12 parking spots up front, which is physically impossible, you still have to adhere to the setback. So I would entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
I have a motion to table the topic 6E with a second.
And when do you want it brought back? In the August meeting?
Commissioner,
Please.
August meeting.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to table this until August meeting. Any discussion? I do have maybe a point of privilege. Can we clarify that we get this corner staked before we get it back on the?
That's why I'm needing to know exactly, because that'll determine how fast she needs to move. So
Okay.
if we were doing it in August,
Would a month, would we be able to get an appropriate survey, appropriate plat in a month? And
If we're raising Wyatt with Redessa Land Serving, I don't think that 30 days, in that cut, we have to do 15 days published, so I would say September at the earliest.
Okay.
What if we could get it surveyed
Abby?
prior to that?
Well, we do have public, we have to tell the public
Notification.
what's going on.
Notice and
2
everything
weeks.
We can allow you to contact the surveyor and then give us a date, and if we can meet the August, then we'll put it on y'all's agenda. But
so August no later than September, after September.
And if it's staked already, we could get that information from the surveyor, because whenever we first originally bought the property, it was being surveyed even prior to us.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a point out there, and then I know the overlay. So it's just a matter of us getting all of that information.
Yeah. Sorry, my Roberts rules kind of fell apart there. We have a motion second.
Mr. Chairman.
And I think there's a clarification, August or September, so we do have to vote on that, and then maybe we can talk logistics after.
Do, back upon what I asked her originally on that entrance with the sign pole and all that stuff, do we need to get some point of clarification from that landowner stating that that's okay and that's between those two before we approve this,
And I
Just-
can do that
That
because
would probably be good.
for him moving the sign, them moving the sign?
Commissioner
All
Blah,
that
are
as
you
well.
okay with those amendments to your table that we have?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. And you still second it?
I second it, yes, sir.
Okay. With the motion on the table with the changes recommended by the commission, we had plenty of discussion. Maybe we go to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Bowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner McLean?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments all. Thank you for being here. We'll take it up either in August or September, depending on when we get that back.
Okay.
Okay, that is it for our quasi judicial public hearing. Now we move to our public hearing on the Chapter 54 Land Use Division 4 zoning districts. It looks like we have more revisions for this section. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for this section. And we'll bring in, hi Phyllis.
Hi.
Thank you.
Do you want to have discussion prior to opening the public hearing?
Yeah, actually, Phyllis, will you tell us what we're,
Appreciate your input, sir.
I'm going to run to the restroom. Do you
okay. Phyllis, why don't we pause the public hearing? I'm sorry, this is off decorum, but we're going to take 2 minutes, 3 minutes to transition here.
That's fine.
Thank
It
you.
was an interesting case.
Thank you. So why don't we come back at 4:05, 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to get going again. Phyllis, thank you for that break, and thank you for bearing with us. I appreciate it. I believe we were going to move into Chapter 54. Why don't you give us a understanding of what we're going over, and then I'll open it up to public hearing, if you don't mind, Phyllis. And you're on mute.
Sorry, I had muted so you couldn't hear typing or whatever. So I'd like to introduce Carlos Gamora, who's my colleague here at Site Southwest and has been working on the procedures. But just to go over what you have in front of you, it's the next module, Module 3 of the 4 that we're making adjustments to or revising. And this one is about the procedures. So all of the different types of cases that the staff or you or the village council would be reviewing. And I'm going to well, first of all, I know this has been a long hearing so far. So what's your pleasure as far as how much you want to go over today? Because I imagine that this will be of interest to you because it has to do with your role, a lot of it, and maybe could be picked up again in August to finish.
Yeah, thanks, Phyllis. I appreciate that. I would ask if the commission's okay with it, that we prime the pump. In other words, we get the information that we need to know, maybe go overview, get a little bit of understanding, open it up to public hearing, and then maybe see how we're feeling after that. I do think we need to address the item because it is on our agenda.
Oh, right, and we would like to get started with it so that you
Yes,
know
so let's
what
prime
it
the
is.
pump, if you will, and then
Yeah.
we'll pull the cord next time.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Carlos, who's been the main author of this piece, and let him kind of go over an outline and the purpose and the main changes that you're going to see.
Sounds great, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. As Phyllis said, my name is Carlos Gamora. I've been working with Phyllis, Sam, and Stephanie on some of the procedures in front of you today. I've drafted kind of a table that just looks at some of that general overview, and then we also have some of the proposed code. If you take a look at that, I mean, the main intentions for this section are to consolidate sections of the code, to simplify those, to really ensure consistency between the procedures, to clarify some criteria for decisions, and to remove some of the extraneous material. To go over those a little bit for the consolidation, what we did was we were taking a lot of sections that are in different parts of the code and tried to arrange those together when it makes sense to make it really easy to see and reference how those different procedures are working. You will notice that some procedures are still in different parts of the code and will stay there, but we try to take some of the other ones and bring those together. For simplification, it's not about a simplification or a reduction of zoning compliance. It's really just trying to simplify some of the language that's in the existing code and sometimes refine or streamline the procedures to encourage more efficient review and to encourage that existing compliance. For ensuring consistency, a good example, if you look through the procedures that we've drafted, something that we try to really clearly lay out is first showing what the purpose of that procedure is, or that application is, looking at the criteria for a decision, and then looking at the process for a review. So we try to make it a little bit more clear how those three things kind of work within each of those procedures. As far as the clarification for criteria, we thought it was really important that everyone understands what all that criteria for review is. So we tried to clarify that wherever possible and really bring that into its own subsection to make it easy to review. And then removing extraneous material, something we were able to find is that things like application and submission requirements, a lot of times they're listing a lot of this minutia that goes into the application and submission requirements, those should generally be within application checklist managed by staff, rather than something that's kind of listed and duplicated in code. So we often removed some of the specific and just created a general section for those. Similarly, there's multiple sections where sometimes there's different application withdrawal or public hearing processes. When those deserve a unique procedure, then we left it in that unique section. But when those are following general procedure, we just created a general procedure section and had those there. So we tried to kind of keep those together. We could open it up. I'd be happy to start walking through some of the general changes here if you'd like, or go through some questions. I'm open to however you'd want to tackle some of this. If you look at the table, I guess if you look at the table, you could see I've got, a general procedures section that talks about some of the existing code material and some of the new material, and then goes through some of the processes. So any of that stuff I should kind of show you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but just so I'm super clear, because I'm probably the densest one up here. 79 through 85, those are not within the code. Those are an overview of the changes, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in the table, just so I'm even more clear, the existing material is in that section, what it says. So like an example, general procedures, the existing material says fees refundable when application is denied. The new material would be the change in the wording and change in the process. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so for the new material, there's both material changes in items or content, like I just described with the refundable fees, and there's material changes in just how it's laid out, right?
Correct.
And those are all intertwined together. So previously, when we were working with Phyllis, we had like a line-by-line redaction. Because of so many changes, we're unable to have it line by line, and it's best to see it summarized in this way.
For right now, we thought it would be best to kind of summarize that. If you look at the red lines, it looks like, a great majority of the code has been deleted and added onto. But when you actually look at the substance, there are substantive changes. I think exactly as you were saying, Commissioner. These in the code previously said they were refundable. Now we're saying that they're not. That's a substantive change.
Right.
There's also sections where administrative review criteria isn't laid out how administrative review happens, and we created kind of a section for that administrative review. Yeah.
And we do have a red line version, and I believe that you received a clean version, so it was easier to follow.
Yep.
But I think when we get to the point of going through the page by page piece,
Yes.
that we can share a screen on our end and have the two side by side, if that works for you guys.
We're getting nods here, so this sounds like a great path forward for how we're going to review this.
Yeah.
So, okay, sorry, Carlos, didn't mean to derail you. Please continue.
That's perfect. I guess question for you, Commissioner, and commissioners. Would you like me to start kind of going through some of the changes in the general procedures, administrative procedures? We could talk about specific procedures. I could kind of lay out generally what some of those changes were in a little bit more detail. I could talk more about some of the substantive changes, or we could, whatever your preference.
It seems like if we dive into the chapter and have the two side by side, they'll start to see how the arrangement goes as soon as you get into the first procedure, I think. I mean, you'll have the general stuff first, and then maybe we can get through that today. And then once you get into the specific procedures like zone plan or zoning amendment or variance or whatever, you'll see how they're all following the same format now.
Would there, at the request of the commission, I guess, if you will, is there a smaller procedure that we could go through so we understand the process? Because it looks like the general procedures might be 7 or 8 pages long. Is that true? Like, maybe we do variances as an example? Would that be okay to start there, just so that way we understand the process, or does it build on one another?
I think they're discrete.
Okay.
So we could start with variances. That would work.
Yeah,
I
maybe we
think
do
variances or
variances.
zone amendments could be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we start there? And I know that's a little out of order, but I think that might be a little bit smaller bite of the whale, if you will.
Yeah, I think the zone map amendments might work because it's pretty short.
Okay.
And then you can see how they're laid out, and a lot of what you're going to be interested in is in the general procedures, because the notification and all of that is the same for all these processes.
Gotcha.
So the zone map amendment one will show kind of the organization of all the procedures.
Okay, great. And let's start there. That's page 96 of your packets, or 11 of the smaller packet that we've been looking at.
Right. So commissioners, so this is the zone map amendment. So you can see on the left here, this is part of your packet, and then this is some of the red lines. So previously, zone map amendments started talking about generally how they were initiated. This is kind of changed into how you apply for them. So this text, it's redlined, it's crossed out, but this is actually kind of moved into this kind of section down here where it talks about how you apply for it. So it's not quite accurate that this is entirely crossed out as much as the content was moved. Instead, we kind of start first with laying out what the purpose is. The purpose of a zone map amendment is to change the zoning of an area to meet the land use needs of the village in conformance with the village comprehensive plan, in conformance with state statute. And then talks about how they can be initiated, and who can start to initiate some of those. So that's an example of where there's not really a lot of substantive changes there, but it does try to lay those out a slightly different way. Can you all see the text, or should I expand this a little more?
Yeah, I actually think on the left-hand side, we have that, correct? Or is that the old version on the left-hand side?
This is what you have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you can get rid of that because all of us are looking at our page and then make
Sounds great.
And make that big and big print.
Real big.
Real, yeah, there we go.
We have it on record that members of the commission are old, so.
I heard that. Yeah.
I second that again.
All right.
Do we need a roll call
So
vote?
can you see this?
Thank you. Even if you can go just maybe a little bit more, that would be.
Yeah, fill out
Good
that
thing.
whole screen.
Yeah, I mean,
There you go. Keep
I'm supposed to
going,
have
keep going.
glasses, and I don't have glasses, so.
So again, the idea of laying out a purpose here is a little bit different than what's in the existing code, but we thought that it really helps readers, figure out exactly why the zone map amendment is here and why they would even be looking at it in the first place. And then still does talk about who can kind of start to initiate those, and then later on how to submit those.
And the red line's all the stuff that's been removed, basically.
Exactly.
Or moved.
Removed or just reorganized. Okay, all right, I'm
Right.
starting to follow.
Right.
Okay.
Criteria for decision. So there's already some sections of the code later on that kind of sprinkles into how you might want to make a decision, how you might want to get into this, and there's also state statutes for some of this. So we kind of just rewrote some of that section by saying that the criteria for a zone map amendment, the existing zoning district is supposed to be inappropriate for one of the reasons. Maybe it was established in error, maybe surrounding conditions have changed, or maybe the proposed zoning is more advantageous. So that's already something that's kind of in the code, kind of in state statute, kind of existing practices. And we're just trying to kind of rephrase that and put that in a way that works for the village. a zone map amendment can't result in spot zoning, right? That was something that just came up with that change from a C2 to an R1. And then whether necessary infrastructure and public services can feasibly be provided to the property. So we thought that these kind of three sections here, this kind of A, B, and C, kind of summarized what that criteria for decision should be. Does that make sense?
So far.
It does.
Okay. Okay.
And
the process.
Sorry, Carlos, real quick. Question for Sam.
Absolutely.
This doesn't change the criteria for acceptance or decision, right? I mean, in the current zone or current code, it lays it out pretty much like this, right?
Yes, Carlos, we haven't touched on anything like that with approvals, have we? We haven't added any kind of language?
This language would be new that would try to evaluate whether to approve or deny a rezoning.
So I don't think that this has changed. I think it just details criteria as opposed to how we do it now.
And this is pretty much based on state statute.
Okay.
And it's just trying to clarify so that when you're trying to make a decision or when the staff is writing their staff report and when the applicant is submitting their application, it's very clear what you're going to be looking at.
Okay.
And sometimes that was already in the code and pretty clear, and sometimes it was not. So now for every process, there's a decision criteria so that everybody's sort of on the same page when submitting, reviewing, approving people's applications.
Okay, super helpful. One thing that I'll call out that we might need to follow up on, you have spot zoning in parentheses. I don't know if we have that defined anywhere.
It is now, and
is
it
now.
is
It is defined.
in our old code as well, but the actual definitions are
Perfect, never mind then.
And we did try throughout to make sure that anything we introduced was either already in there or we added it.
Okay.
Anything that required a definition.
And a lot of this criteria was explained. It was just very muddy. This makes it a lot more clear to understand on what is what.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
So if we go down to the process here, this process hasn't really changed. In fact, we really liked some of this process here. Some of the applications give 3 pages of all the details of what should and should not be within an application. This actually lays it out pretty well. It should be made on a form provided by the planning administrator. The planning administrator is going to work with the applicant to make sure that they have whatever kind of evidence needs to be in there. This lists some of the items, but doesn't go into too much detail. And we thought that was adequate.
And that way, if you have the checklist, you can have the north arrow, survey required, floodplain
Exactly.
shown, parking shown, whatever. That can be on the checklist, and you would review it if the checklist changed, but it wouldn't affect the ordinance itself.
Right, exactly. And then things like this, that the application has to be completed and submitted along with an established fee, that's already in a fee section, right? There's already a section that says that there will be fees and you'll have to pay those fees. Does it have to be 30 days prior? Maybe, maybe not. That's a different process. So that's an example of where we're kind of cutting some of those things out. Administrative review and staff recommendation. There's a lot of sections where it says that the planning administrator, or there's a lot of practices, right? Where you have staff that are going through the applications and doing a staff report.
Public
That
hearings
wasn't-
require-
One second, Carlos, there's a question from a commissioner.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just
Sure.
confused, why is the,
The public hearings are required to be posted 15 days in advance to the meeting. This specific application for rezoning for the 30 days didn't really make sense because there wasn't much that needs to go on. There are a couple others like subdivisions that have a 30-day requirement, but that gives staff enough time to gather the internal reviews prior to the publishing and the meeting for you guys. But this particular case didn't require the 30 days.
Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, and I guess the concept of removing checklists from the code, that becomes just in the planning office.
Yeah,
it
so
would
if
just- it
you've
just
noticed
goes just-
in some of the site plans you guys have received, there's been a lot of red lines through there that we've said not received or not applicable. So it's really just gonna unmuddy that document when
Okay.
you're looking at it to see what you actually needed versus what you actually got.
Okay, all right.
Great.
Okay. No, is that just questions?
Yeah. Continuing on, something else I really wanted to make a little bit more clear was trying to make sure that we had kind of a section for the application, a section for administrative review, a section for planning commission review, and in this instance, a section for village council review. Sometimes there were instances where, village council review was getting multiple sections and it was kind of mudding into other processes. So we tried to really refine that down a little bit and have some consistency with how those are being laid out in the code. This is an example of where the council being able to review a report and recommendation to the planning commission, that's already kind of within some of the public hearing procedures. Similarly, this idea that an applicant has to write to ask the village council to review the application if it's been denied by the planning commission, that should just be unless it's withdrawn by the applicant, not actually having that positive step to continue that process. So we were able to really condense this down here, just saying you've got to follow the applicable public hearing procedures unless the application's actually been withdrawn.
So just to clarify, if it comes to us, we have a recommendation, the only time that the village council won't hear it is if the applicant removes it.
Correct,
That's
because
correct.
we're simply just giving a recommendation. We don't give a final determination by the planning commission on that specific hearing.
Perfect. And for rezonings initiated by us, the planning
It'll
commission.
go directly to the, council after you. There wouldn't necessarily be a recommendation for you guys to sign off reading.
Okay, super helpful.
Right. And so that's some existing stuff. So yeah, I actually like this section of the code pretty well. I think it already kind of laid some of that stuff out, and I thought it was pretty comprehensible. There's like some other stuff here. The village council can overturn the planning commission with a vote from the majority of the members. I mean, that's what the village council does. So we didn't think that was really necessary to keep in the code. Similarly, things about protest. So if somebody protests an application, it would go back to the village council, and then the village council would have to have an affirmative vote of the majority of all the members of the council. But if the council has already approved the application based on a majority vote, I didn't think it was necessary to have this kind of potential protest here. There's already chances to submit written
Is that a requirement though under New Mexico law?
opinions. There's already chances to appear before within a public hearing. So having this whole protest idea didn't seem really necessary or useful.
Okay. Carlos, there's some questions in discussion. There's a
Yeah,
question
absolutely.
about New Mexico
Yeah,
law.
I was just wondering, as I said, is that part of a New Mexico statute as far as protesting that decision? I mean, that's what I said, you're removing it, that's, okay. Is there a legal basis for somebody if they want to do that? Is that part of New Mexico statute? It may not be part of the village statute, but my guess is a lot of this original stuff came fed out of New Mexico statute. So before you remove it, I think you'd kind of want to know the answer to that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Commissioners, I've never seen something like this in other zoning codes. Generally, if the village council is approving something, that's the final decision. If there's an appeal to that, that would go to the district court.
Okay. I'm just
I think
trying
that's
to.
consistent with.
Absolutely.
all the
Yeah.
ordinances,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, It falls in line with the exact process that we go through. We look at everybody that was in the notified area and determine the responses from there. We have public hearing from outside, but the deciding factors that you guys look at are the ones immediately effective within the notification. So that's what this says, but it's muddy, so removing that and just being able to give a definitive action on that is gonna help clear it up.
Yeah, as long as it isn't in conflict with something, you know, I mean, that's where you run into
Right.
challenges with local ordinances when they overlap
Right,
or
yeah,
contradict state
Phyllis and
ordinances.
Carlos have done great making sure we've been going back and forth and making sure we're not getting conflicts.
Yeah, this feels like an old Redoso ordinance that was slipped in here. All right, you gave your ruling, but me and 20% of my buddies think that you're wrong, so.
But, and again, commissioners, you know, it's if that's signed by 20%, it would go back to the village council. The village council would then have a chance to re-review it. But hypothetically, that process has already happened where there's already been, you know, owners surrounding it that have weighed in, and the village council has already weighed in.
You're
So, you
preaching
know,
to the
that seems
choir.
like
I understand their need for removal. It's just,
Yeah, no, I get it, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't against
Yeah.
something, there wasn't a state statute or something that said, you know,
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's all, okay.
And then here's something, you know, resubmittal of application. We already have a general section in the code that says that if you've applied for something, you can't apply for the same thing within 12 months. That's what we kind of said the general process would be. This idea that here it's kind of saying, like, if it's been rejected, you can't resubmit for a year, except if the application is made for a different zoning district change on the same parcel of land within 6 months. Maybe we want to keep it that 6 months in, but the idea right now would be that if you're asking to go from, you know, C2 to C1 and you get denied, hypothetically you could go from C2 to R1 right afterwards, right? That's a different application. It's not the same application. So we thought that this worked for a kind of just following the general process. I could skip up that if that helps. But we thought it could just follow the general process. If that's not the case, we'd want to have something specific or unique in here. But we kind of just figured that it should be in the general procedures for reconsideration.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate
I
that.
think that's it. Yeah, that's it for the rezoning.
Commissioners, if there's no objections, I think that this was good to get a lay of the land about what we're gonna do the next meeting. But I'd entertain a motion to table the remainder.
Let's table the remainder. Second.
I have a motion and a second to table the remainder of this. I think I am supposed to open up. We already
You
good.
can do that at the end, so you're not opening and closing, because once you open and you.
Let me dial in just a second. They're closing their meeting.
You're not on mute now, Phyllis, but thank you. I have a motion and a second. Why don't we go to a roll call vote to table the remaining points?
Okay, Commissioner Bob?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner McLean?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Meeting will hear this again in August.
Thank you. And Carlos, Phyllis, thank you for
job.
sitting through the prior 2 hours of items. We really appreciate it.
It's always interesting to hear what the cases are like coming before you because it makes us think about what would help.
Yeah.
And we need a lot of help, Phyllis.
Yes.
Well, I don't know
Sure
about
do.
that, but
At this time, I do need to open up the public hearing, but since nobody's online, we're good?
No, you don't want to open it, because if you go to open it next time, you've already closed it.
Oh, okay.
So until you're ready to actually
To vote.
participate in that
Okay.
part, then I would.
Strike what
wait.
I said. All right, we tabled that. We will go to community development report. Sam, anything?
It's enclosed in your all's packet, but I'll answer any questions you may have.
bye.
Thanks, Phyllis. Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you all.
No questions for me at this time.
None.
Hearing no questions, we can move to comments. If no comments, I will entertain an adjournment.
Go ahead. You were first chairman before we adjourned.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Yes.
Hold on. Is it possible that we put on the agenda at the top that this commission may go into executive session pertaining to any issues on the document?
Typically, those are identified prior to the meeting, and we have done that in the past on a certain item.
I thought we have.
Yeah, we have, but it's usually
Clarity.
case by case, yeah.
So if it's on the agenda that we could go into executive session, I think there's periods in time, like today, that we probably could have cut 30 minutes off of this and moved on.
I'll consult with the clerk and see what her thoughts are, and then
We're all
if we
sitting here
can,
thinking a lot of the same thing, we're just not saying it.
yeah, it's possible. I'll ask her what language that we need to have, so we have that option.
But,
Today was tough.
It was aggravating, because we'd already fought this battle once before.
Exactly.
We had to call her out, so if we went and spent 5 minutes in session, made a list and called her out and moved on.
It was for my benefit.
Yeah, Bill was not
I
here.
understand.
I think that, and Stephanie, another comment, I know we still haven't adjourned yet. Would it be possible to have two chairs set up so that the applicant is always in one location and then we have a spot for people with questions or comments to come and sit down? We can pass the mic back and forth, but it creates an imbalance of power when one is standing and,
well, typically, the applicant doesn't remain seated at the table.
okay.
Yeah, we used to have a podium. I don't know where that is. We have a microphone, but it's not typical that the applicant actually stays. They usually
Gotcha.
vacate the seat and then come back.
Can
We could just
have-
remove that chair. We'll do that. We'll move it off to the side.
Yeah, it'd be great because it's supposed to be a cross-examination, so the applicant should stay, in my opinion, there.
Okay. It's just not typical on how it had been before.
That was kind of uncomfortable earlier, I could tell, so we'll do that.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments?
I figured that out.
Any opposition to adjournment?
None.
None.
Seeing none, we will adjourn. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you.